All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Gabe, Goose, and Heck, the greatest check-in. In this episode, the crew covers topics that range from 2022 goal-setting status and the greatest update, revisiting our why, making adjustments, future predictions, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Jim Ryun and Mark Caine. Guys, if you're new, thank you for listening. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off. So, we just, as I stated, we just want to check in, make sure we are on the, ball or on schedule, and if not, what adjustments we need to make, and so forth. We'll get into all that. But the importance of knowing what motivates you and determining your why. So when we think about having the greatest year ever, you think about some of the goals we've all may have set at the beginning of the year. Everyone is, or a lot of people are very motivated. Not everyone does it. Not everyone partakes. But for the folks that do, and it's your thing, you have, new year, new me, that type deal. That's what we're talking about. And sometimes it takes, a different conversation for it to spark, whether it's interest or reinvigorate the mind to go back after the goal. So life happens. We can get distracted. We can slow down. We can lose our motivation or inspiration, our energy, everything that we are putting into the efforts of manifesting the goal, right? And so a lot of times, the end of January, people are done, right?
Sure.
And so maybe the first day or first week you were done, and you had intentions and something horrific happened. So what we're here to do today is to spark interest again. Now, if you already have the momentum and you're kicking butt, keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Just improve. Hopefully this is going to add to your journey. If you have completely stopped or slowed down, this is what we're talking about. We're more geared towards those folks that just need a kick in the rear to get things going again, and you already lost gas. Well, we are here to fuel you back up, and the first statement that was made is to understand your why. Why did you set that specific goal in the beginning of the year? Why did you get started? Why did you want to accomplish said goal, right? And so you have to go back to those things. That's the number one, because you have to, if your why is not there and it's not driving you, any hiccup in the road, which is probably why you probably stopped, right? It's because your why wasn't strong enough. And maybe it was, but the goal is to find something that is like a deep burning desire within you to accomplish that. And so figure out what motivates you and determine your why. Another cool, item to stay on track is we can tend to make very lofty goals.
Sure.
Right? And something that may or may not, depending on our mindset, get accomplished till the end of the year. So here's February, or the end of February, you're like, oh my gosh, dude, we still got like 10 more months of this hardcore, and it's kind of like a dark thought to some extent. And so one of the suggestions is to provide or to insert mini goals, right? Or mini incentives in as you're going. And these little achievements will help celebrate the process.
Yeah, because it keeps the confidence up. It keeps you, kind of keeps you going. Because when you think, I have to do all this by the end of the year, and 10 months later, then it's like, that's too much. And then
there was so we were at I don't know if you guys ever seen. There's a place called Funzilla around us, and my son was playing this race car game, and it reminded me of when I was a kid. There's similar games where you had to reach a specific checkpoint. After hitting every checkpoint, you either got more gas or more time put on to that session. And so it was one of those things. Your whole goal was actually just not finish the race. It was to get to the next checkpoint.
Yes, exactly.
And if you could think of it as just get to the next checkpoint, and you'll get, refueled and add more time and just get reinvigorated. It's a similar concept, and it breaks things down. And so if your goal is to lose 100 pounds, let's say in 1 year, obviously you want to consult with a professional.
Sure.
But anyway, let's just say that's what it was, that's a very overwhelming thought. But if you broke it down quarterly to 25 pounds,
right, kind of reasonable.
It's like, okay, that's hard, but
still
at least it's more digestible than 100. Right?
Yes, exactly.
And so it's sort of that thing. And then you break it down even further. That means just under 10 pounds a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, then that means about 2 pounds a week, which doesn't sound as bad as 100. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly.
And so when you keep breaking things down and, to that manner, and I hate to use a very basic example like weight, but you get the idea.
That's an easily quantifiable thing.
Yeah, it brings the process down easier, and it seems more manageable in your head, and logically you're like, all right, I can make it happen, but my ultimate goal is 100 by the end of the year. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. The smaller portions, we'll call them. And here's another thing. It allows you to appreciate the process, right? So when you set the smaller goals, you get to celebrate that quarter goal, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you set that large goal and you're not doing anything in between, but just going after it all year long, you waited all year. And even if you got it, it's like one big celebration.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Where if you chop it down, let's just say 4 times, you have these 4 little things to look forward to. This is why when people set like goals, as in going to a vacation or getting married, has anyone noticed a correlation with getting fit or looking a specific way for a reunion?
Absolutely.
Because you have a set goal,
Yeah.
right? And so you're very passionate about reaching that goal for X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yeah.
Or have you ever seen somebody save a lot of money in a very short period of time? Why? Well, because they wanted a specific home, or they wanted to live in a specific area, and that would correlate to you saving or stacking up a specific amount.
Right.
And so you go all out, getting multiple jobs and all this other stuff just to stack up a specific, because it's temporary. Right? And so you push all this energy, and then you look back, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah.
Right? And it was so worth it. While you're going through it, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, when you're going through something like that hardcore, and using that much energy, it's not sustainable.
Sure.
So just knowing that this is short-lived and this is going to be short-term, it makes it okay, because you're not going to be going that hard for 20 years. Yeah.
Right.
You're going to be doing it for spurts.
Right.
And that's why it's important to break things down.
But I think too, you can use that as like, oh, if I can do it, even a portion of that at a certain like level, you can stretch it out and still accomplish the same thing over time, or at least keep some kind of momentum going for a longer period of time. Like, you don't have to do like the crazy like hardcore, but at least you have something going constantly.
No, absolutely. And momentum is another topic that I want to bring up. So momentum is something you do not want to destroy. So when you're chopping down your goals in those little bite-sized, manageable portions, you are building momentum. When you're building momentum for the first month, that then builds into month 2, that builds into month 3, you don't want to stop.
Sure.
That's the thing about the progress, is that once you start eating healthy for 4 weeks, you don't even want to mess it up. Or once you stop a bad habit for so many days, you don't even want to mess it up. You're like, oh my gosh, let me see how far I can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it kind of works that way, and that's you're carrying that momentum. Now, if you jack it up and mess up the routine, and you, whether it's purposely or not done on purpose, you ruin the momentum, it's going to take that much more energy to get you back. And that's all you're thinking of, is like, oh my gosh, because I knew how much energy it took me to get here. Now I have to start all over.
Yeah.
And that could be a dark thought, right? And so why ruin the momentum? Just keep it going.
Sure.
And like I said, if you know it's temporary, everything's temporary, first of all. And so I don't care who you are and what you do, you can go hard for however long you think you can, but let's be honest, are you truly giving 100%? So what I'm saying is, small spurts, knock it out, implement some level of break or what we're calling it like incentives or achievements, checkpoints that are in there to reinvigorate that why, because sometimes the grind can be so hard that you can lose sight of the goal, why you started.
Sure.
And then, one of the other things with momentum is having that support system around you. Now, you don't need, 15 million cheerleaders and everyone being on your side or anything like that, especially, as an adult, right?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you should be doing this for yourself anyway, right? For whatever the goal is, or for your family or something like that, right? Having the support, though, is crucial to the success. Having the support is critical to maybe even your just mental health, and because what we're doing is you're kind of beating yourself up in a very amplified way in a short period of time, and it's like you're getting blasted, right? And so if you could have those conversations or just those pep talks, whether it's a mentor, a family member, a friend, whatever it is, they too, and if they understand what your goal is, they too can kind of bring you back into reality, so to speak.
Yeah, because you can talk it out saying like, I'm not feeling it today or whatever.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, they can talk you back into it and just like, or just focus. Remember what your goal is, or remember what you're going, what you're going for, and keep that up. And you don't want to stop that. So that's always good to have that support, so somebody kind of cheer you back on and stuff like that. That happened a couple times with me where I kind of fell off, and then my wife is like, you got to get back on. You got to continue doing, because if you don't do it, you're going to be mad at yourself that you didn't finish it off.
Sure.
So push through. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like, just a little quick reminder of you're going to be mad at yourself, and who wants to be mad at themselves? So it's like, all right, quick check and keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, it also, if you share that goal with someone, and if it is a significant other, you have that accountability too, to not allow you to slip. But I remember when my wife and I were saving for our wedding and our home, and I remember we had like a meter. We had a debt meter, like a bunch of debt meters. So we would have like pay off this student loan and pay off this car note, and I would literally color red like the thermometer or whatever. And when I hit the top, I was debt free from that particular thing. And I remember doing that, and that was enough for me to stay motivated.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was funny because it was such a visual and it was just between me and my wife. Like, no one, you just said, oh, wow. So obviously you didn't even know I was doing that.
It's also cool that it's right in front of you at all times. So you walk by, I mean, depending on where you're hanging out, like say you have it hanging outside like of your bedroom door or by the kitchen, and you're walking by, you see that.
Yes.
And it's like, dang, dude, I'm almost there. And it's like a constant reminder. It makes you want to do that
and
finish.
You have the physical evidence of how close you are to the goal.
How your goal is going,
Yeah, I hung them up. I was living in my parents' house. I hung it up in my bedroom, where I had like a little office set up, and I worked from home at that time, so I was literally staring at it all day long.
Yeah.
But that held me accountable. It was funny to not only my goals, but to my fiance at that time, because she's also looking at the meters.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, dang, I said I was going to do X, Y, and Z. Like, not that I was going to back down, but it's like it holds you accountable.
Yeah.
Because it's like the pressure's on, dude. Like, you can't.
She can see exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. And actually, it made me go harder. So I went and got another job, and it's like, let's do this even faster. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like showing off in front of myself, because it was like,
She's like, oh, yeah, he's working hard.
Yeah. And so, having that visual, there's a book out there called The Greatest, and I purposely read it this year. I purposely purchased it this year, all that, because we're calling this the greatest year ever. And in it, he talks. There's a story about I forget. It's a military gentleman who is training for some specific event, and he's being told what the goal is and what his max is. And so like he's just reaching that. And then, and excuse me if I'm totally getting this wrong, but it's somewhat like this. Then he's basically being lied to and saying you're almost there. And then when you see him physically trying harder, he's like, oh, you're almost there. And he's going for full exertion, and then he finally finished, and the dude's like wiped out. he like nearly doubled his max. And the guy was telling him you're just there. Meanwhile, he was blowing his previous record out of the water. And so it's like, what's your reference?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm good compared to who? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, you might be compared to the people you're comparing to, but you might be not so good compared to another group of individuals, right? And so it's like you're setting the tone, do it what works best for you, hold yourself accountable. And here's another one. Do it for the right reasons.
Well, yeah.
Another reason why things fall apart is because you forced it. It really wasn't meant to be.
Right.
You're going after something that maybe you're not even fully passionate about, and you're just doing it out of vain and your ego.
Or you're not ready for it, and you go after it, and you're like,
not really.
You get stuck with it, and then you're like, wow, I really wasn't ready for this.
Sure.
And so we have here the ideal goal. The ideal goal is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. And so another key item is visualization, and we talk about this all the time. We had Algernon Hall talking about dream building, goal setting, or dream boards, and cutting out pictures of the things or events and items that we want. And same thing, and they have that visual aspect to obtaining that goal. So one of the biggest things is, how can you incorporate all 5 senses into your goal setting? Like, while you're in the process of attaining what you're trying to do, how can you incorporate, while visualizing, all 5 senses? So if you want a beach home, right, and how can you incorporate smell? Just visualize the sea or the salt air hitting your, whatever, and you're thinking about that, and then maybe feeling the sand in your hands. It's a touch thing, and then obviously physically seeing the actual home or whatever, that you want, so on and so forth, right? And then the more senses you add, the more real you're making that, and you're literally manifesting that goal. A lot of us just use our mind and just, oh wow, that's awesome if I could take it there. But if you could purposely add smell, touch, and so you're truly bringing it to fruition.
Yeah, because you always hear like when you get nostalgia, because you see the visuals, and you like something brings you back. You hear like a type of music or something that takes you back to like a sort of old period of time. Like, so encapsulating all that into that puts you in that moment, so you really like feel like I need to get there. Yeah, man. So I mean, and so when you're visualizing, it has to be real for you, right? So I can say, hey, put something up on a dream board, right? But if that doesn't trigger a ton of emotion, no, exactly.
You're not going to manifest it, right?
Right.
Or if some people, all they need is a written goal.
Yeah.
Just write it down. They see that, they're amplified, and it's believable for them. The thing about obtaining your goals is that it has to be believable to you.
Yeah.
So figure out what works for you, because what works for me or us here may not necessarily, mean it's the case for someone else who's currently listening, right?
Yeah.
So find what is like, some people have to physically go. Again, we'll use the beach house. Say you want a beach house. Some people need to physically go into that actual environment.
Yeah.
So go down to or up wherever the shore is, comparative to where your geographic location. Go there and say, man, this is what I'm manifesting. This is what I want. This is the dream life right here. And you might need to do all that. You might need to go run on the beach and grab the sand and hear the clashing of the waves hit the beachfront.
So then you realize, that's what I'm going to keep coming back to.
Yes. And I don't think that's bad for anyone. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But some people need to do all that.
Sure.
And then, and like I said, some person just might need to just write a little simple goal on.
Yeah.
You have to know thyself, right?
Yeah.
Know thyself. Know what triggers you and what not triggers you. If you know darn well that's not going to help you, then don't do it.
Exactly.
Figure it out, because it's all manifested through feeling.
Yeah.
And if you genuinely feel and believe that it's yours, you will literally manifest it.
Absolutely. That's like when I want something and I'm like stuck in it, I'm researching it 24/7.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am constantly looking at it. I am constantly going through it on the internet, reviewing things and talking, like going like ridiculous at like I'm stuck in my phone or I'm stuck in a computer for hours on end researching what can I do, how can I do this, and knowing that this is what I want and this is how it's going to go, and like go from there. It's just, that's how I get myself into it.
Yeah.
I review it multiple times to the point where once I got what I got, I don't review it anymore because I know what I have. I don't have to backtrack to second guess myself. Like, oh, was this the right thing to do? Was this the right purchase, or was this the right size, or whatever? I know I got what I want. I got because I researched it so many times and felt positive about it because I knew that's what I wanted.
Yeah, it becomes like an obsession. In a sense. You just like you like and overdo it to it.
And I just constantly, you can do it. I can do it. This is how I'm going to do it. And then it just happens. It just rolls out and happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, well, to Goose's point, saying the obsession part is when you have things on your wall and that's what you're staring at all day.
Yeah,
it was an obsession for me.
Sure.
Like, I'm obsessed with reaching that goal, and I did. Yeah. And what's crazy was, and this part I have said in the past, is that we overshot everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we accomplished all those goals and some, to the point where I always say the same story. It's like, they always tell you, never get married and buy a home in the same year, to the point where it allowed for that. We got married, and literally within a month of each other, bought a house and got married. Yeah. Right. And it was because we were trying to knock out all this debt and save for the wedding that we ended up saving even more and knocking out more debt than we initially thought.
Right.
Then we had enough for a down payment of a house, right? Mm-hmm. And so so that obsession became my momentum. It became my ritual. It became like, this is what I do. And what was even more motivating about it was that I knew it was temporary. I knew once. So we got married in October of 2012. Once, I think it was like August or something, came. If I didn't have like 95% of what, then my ideal was trashed. It was done. Right? I already had hit, by August, I hit like 100% or whatever it was. So what was interesting was the end of August into September, October, all the extras came because it was like, well, I had all this momentum. I could have literally just stopped. Yeah. Right? But I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to just stop just, point blank. I'm just going to let it fade away.
Gradually get off.
Yeah, just stop, just, all right, instead of working a part-time job for 20 hours a week, I'm just going to work 15.
Right.
And it became almost like a luxury.
Yeah.
But because I just tapered off instead of just stopping, I had all this extra cash. Right. And so it was actually kind of cool. And then you want to talk about one of the most rewarding times. We got married, bought a house, everything got approved. I'm on like my honeymoon, on an island, happy as happy can be. I mean, seriously, we hit all our goals.
Yeah.
Because of that, on top of that, we knew we're the most in shape of our lives, because you're going to be on some tropical island on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Financially, the best I've ever was for that time, anyway. And it was all because I stayed crazy focus on me and my wife, I should say, stayed crazy focus on a particular item. We knew exactly what we wanted. We didn't. Here's the other thing. The distractions. When I was talking about the environment, there's also the distractions. We weren't going out to eat. We weren't doing none of that.
Yeah. We
did none of that. Our going out to eat was ordering from a pizza place and spending literally $15. And I remember that was our budget. So with $15, you could have got 2 cheesesteaks that came with like fries or something, or a pie, which was enough for me and her.
Yeah.
Like, that was our going out. And then, for anything else, it was like, if we did do anything, it was like someone's birthday or something like that. It wasn't every weekend we're doing something. It was not that, man. So, but again, we knew that was only going to be temporary. That wasn't going to be our lives forever.
Right.
And so you really have to want it. And we wanted it bad enough. And in fact, it got to a point where it was like I talked about it so much, it would have been embarrassing if I didn't get it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Well, you kept yourself accountable at that point by outwardly expressing it to everybody.
Yo, I'm getting a house this year. And I would just say it, and I was so confident.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's so funny.
You had to make it happen at that point.
Yeah, and it just, and man, and you know what's crazy? So July of that year, we see this house, and it was July or August of that year, we see this house, and we're just rounding off on our, like, we hit our goal, this is awesome, whatever. I'm like, wow. Look, we already projected, we already saw that we were going to hit. And I remember thinking, man, if that house was like 15%, or something like that, 15% cheaper, we'd be able to jump on it. And I was like in the exact, location we wanted, everything, right? Dude, without exaggeration, we were ready, and the opportunity came. The deal fell through for the previous, and it was pending at that point. The sale was pending. The deal fell through. The person who was selling the house, at that point was just like, I got to get rid of this. I don't even think at that point she was already like living out of the state, and dropped the price to exactly 15%. And then boom, it came on the market. We reached out and said, is this still blah, blah, blah? And everything went through.
Yeah. It's amazing how things happen. Like, when you know it's yours because you see those numbers, and it's like, that's it. That's all I needed to see. And you're like, dang, let's do this now. That's all it is those numbers, because you know what your mindset is, and you know what you have and what you're capable of doing. And then once you see that, it's like, that's it. It's meant to be. And if you don't do it, you're going to lose it.
If your work environment includes distractions, consider ways to limit or minimize them. Speaking of environment, you have to be able to decipher. We had a guest on here by the name of Danny Serrano, and he was talking about how he himself has the ability to transition for what he does during the day through what he does, what he believes his calling is for God at night.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you have to be able to mentally have the ability to transition through that, throughout the day. And meaning you're going to encounter, so it's positivity versus negativity. You're going to encounter, just because I'm, quote, a positive person and I have my intentions are positive, that doesn't mean everyone I'm going to encounter is positive. Right?
Yeah.
So someone's going to try to come negative, and it might not be intentionally towards me, but I'm going to at some point encounter someone who's extremely negative. Now, it's my decision to that previous point, it's my decision to how I'm going to either allow that person to rob me of my happiness or for me to protect my happiness, right? And so sometimes life in general throws you something, there's really not much you can do, right?
Yeah.
You just have to, handle it and manage it the best you can.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of situations, and I would say most situations, there's going to be that devastating 10% where life is just crazy, right? And there's only X, Y, and Z things you can do about it. But the other 90, there's probably about another 20 in there where it's kind of tough. Sure. I'm going to have to make the best of it. And then, now you're down to 70 of, dude, it's your attitude and how you're viewing. Seriously, it's like, how do I view this?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the same old school example of being stuck in traffic and just being observant, looking around.
Yeah.
The guy on the left is whistling, snapping his fingers, smiling, whatever, singing his lungs out, happy as happy can be. If you look ahead, there's 4 miles of traffic. You look to the right, and there's some dude like slamming his fist into the steering wheel. And both of which could have two totally different things. But let's just say that they're late for work, or potentially could be late for work. Let's not say that this guy had a crazy emergency, and that's because there's some things that are reasonable. What is the difference? He allowed for that specific situation to rob him of his happiness and his joy, right? And his positive energy. Where this other guy amplified it and said, no one's robbing me of my joy and my positive energy. And so I know how simple that sounds, but you don't understand how valuable that is on a day-to-day basis. Today is Tuesday. You're just kind of getting your week started, and it's raining. Right? And you're like, wow, somebody could have had the most miserable day ever because it's just an average Joe day. It's a Tuesday, and, it's just, we're just getting this thing started. Now, you could also be someone who made something happen today, got very excited, sold a house, and your Tuesday is probably the best looking Tuesday. But looking at it aesthetically, the Tuesday's ugly.
Yeah, still rainy, crappy day, right? Yeah.
You made the day very special.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so that you're jumping for joy. And how much do you care about that it rained today, right? And so it's that mindset is what I'm talking about. It's like you're picking and choosing. No?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I told you, if you worked 100 and, let's just say 100 hours in 1 week, and it's Saturday night, and your friends are like, yo, let's go hang out and let's have some fun, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, no,
it's not the right time.
I'm going to order pizza or something like that and just hang out,
chill.
watch a movie. I'm going to bed, right? Just laying low. If I told you just worked 100 hours and I said, yo, you just won $100,000. Let's go to Aruba. The trips, it's all paid expenses. You just won some crazy thing or whatever. How much energy? Do you think you're going to all of a sudden have energy and go to Aruba and collect that $100,000?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, that's a decision. You still have that same exhausted body that just went through that 100 hours a week, 100 hours of work. So it's a decision. And both are okay. But I'm saying it is up to the mind.
Right.
You give that scenario, and it really was up to the mind. Is all of a sudden you got energy for $100,000? Of course you do.
Your mind changed your whole element of your body, the way you're going. You're like, let's go. We got another round.
And it's literally a chemical change inside you happen. And so it's like, how are you that excited? So it goes to the point. That $100,000 or whatever it was, are you that excited about your goals?
Sure.
So it brings it back to that level of excitement. Are you like, well, I just worked 100, and don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from somebody that works that much. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is to then, after you worked all those hours, are you still going after your dream? Right? Versus the person who still worked those hours and is still excited
to continue.
How we were with the podcast in the very beginning, how we are still now.
Sure.
Right now, we're just adding elements to the podcast. So we got a GoPro camera, something that we've been talking about for years, blah, blah, blah. We never not did it. Guess what? We did it.
Right.
Regardless of how long it took, right?
Yeah.
It still happened. Never gave up on it. Mm-hmm. But I was just talking, to somebody earlier before we jumped on the podcast here, that last week we didn't record a podcast, and it had like something inside me was like kind of sad about it. It was like, oh man, we didn't really. But the week before we did 2, so we made up. So it was not like we didn't do anything. It was just like, this is my passion. I love to do this. I love to meet with the guys. I love to hang out and talk positivity. And it's encouraging for all of us to have this tribal level of camaraderie.
Sure.
Right.
We should be having this. We were just smart enough to actually record it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we're coming up on 6 years.
Yeah. And it does feel weird, like when weeks we don't do it.
Yeah.
You're missing out. Like it's like you're missing something from your weekly routine.
Yes. It does feel like last week was kind of off a little bit, knowing that nothing was being recorded, or we weren't talking via Zoom or in the office or whatever.
Even when something comes up, when sometimes I can't make it or whatever, it feels like I'm missing something. Or I messed something up by something
getting in the way
or whatever. Yeah.
With our normal routine, yeah.
Because there was something about that, like you said, camaraderie that like kind of brings it all together and kind of gives you that little boost for the week to kind of keep going.
That little energy, whatever it is. Because what are we're talking about goals that we're talking about getting it, going after it and getting it.
Even when we were doing the podcast via Zoom for like weeks and weeks, I was still coming here. I was doing the Zoom inside the shop because it was like a routine that I was already used to doing. And I did it at home a couple times, but there was like distractions at the house.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just used to coming to the shop. There's no distractions. It's just it is what it is. So I would just come here by myself and still do it.
Yeah.
So another thing that I want to talk about for us to have the greatest year is to limit your focus. And what I mean is to not have we were just talking about, distractions and things like that. To not actually having a lot of goals is a distraction. That are going off simultaneously because, or that you want them to coincide, or the end result is simultaneous. Now, if they all have something to do with each other, right? For example, if it takes, you want to set a goal to grow your hair 4 inches long and it takes about a year, and you also want to drop 100 pounds in a year, those coincide with each other. They're not really competing against each other. That one just kind of does its thing, and then boom, and let's just say you're an actor and that's what you needed for that role. You need to drop 100 pounds, you need to grow your hair. Okay, that kind of goes to each other, right? But if you're trying to get like a college degree and work 52 jobs, you know what I'm saying? And like, it's like, dude, like what are you trying to do here? You have to focus on one thing or another.
Those are adversarial goals.
Yes, right. And they're competing against each other, and they're competing with your time and your energy. That was my whole thing with the Blessed Lifestyle brand and Rotated Views podcast. They just they just go together. They're not competing against each other. They are what they are. I'm sitting here wearing Blessed while I'm recording on Rotated Views podcast. One's not against the other. Right?
It's helping each other out.
Right, and it's helping each other out. Hey, check us out on, Rotated Views podcast, sponsored by Blessed. Hey, the Blessed Lifestyle brand, the guys were wearing Blessed gear on the Rotated Views podcast, right?
Yeah.
They're not going against each other. They're not competing, right? The other thing is be careful, because if you do have... and if it's not organic, like these two things have been grown organically.
Yeah.
If it's not organic, you can have conflicting interest, right? And if you have conflicting interest, or you have support system that might be supporting one item over the other, it's kind of forcing it now, right? And so you're kind of going in two different directions. It might seem like you're like, oh, I'm going after it. I'm setting multiple goals, and I want 50 million other things. What I'm saying is, you could have that fitness goal, and you could have that financial goal. Because they're not going to necessarily, and they have to be done right, but they're not going to necessarily compete against each other. And in fact, there's something called, oh my gosh, I just read about this. Keystone Habits is what it's called. It's called Keystone Habits, where there was a study shown that if you can develop a keystone habit in one area of your life, it'll start trickling into other areas of your life. So there was this study for this particular belief or whatever ideology. They got 1,600 obese people and had them record, just journal what they ate. They didn't tell them to diet. They didn't tell them to do nothing. Just write down what you eat every single day. And what they found was that was their keystone habit. Their habit was tracking, just writing down everything they're eating. What they naturally found was, because they're writing down everything, you had a mass, like the majority of these people were finding that at particular times of the day when they were eating, snacking. So because I'm like, well, at 8 a.m. I just had oatmeal, and it could be something great. It could have been, it's not taking away from that.
Right.
But they found out, like, not everybody, but just, let's just give a particular example. This person, let's just say, found out that they would snack at 10 a.m. Because they didn't know that they were doing this, but they were snacking. But now that they're journaling, they're noticing, oh my gosh, I snack at 10 a.m. literally every single day for the past 30 days. So what I'm going to do is, now I notice that I'm snacking, look at the clock, it's 10 o'clock. Don't snack, just go straight to lunch. All of a sudden, this guy was like dropping weight just based off of looking. He had one atomic habit or a keystone habit, I forget what it's called. It led into weight loss. All they started off was like massive weight loss. One guy just got grossed out about how much he was eating. He's like, I'm not even eating all that. He's like, holy smokes, I genuinely didn't realize I was eating all that.
Yeah.
And it was this large percentage of people were just were losing weight because of one keystone habit. And then all of a sudden it became, well, I'm going to make it a habit to not eat at 10 a.m.
Sure.
And only eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's, not good that I'm eating this much.
Yeah.
And then what I'm eating. And then another guy found that, every Friday he would have a cheesesteak for lunch and pizza when he went home for dinner. When you actually think about that, it's like, all right, that's actually not, but then he's like, but every Thursday and Friday. He's like, why am I doing that? Well, the guys, it was like a thing that they did on Fridays. They get cheesesteaks.
Just hang out.
It was something that they did.
Yeah.
And then he would go home, and then his family, a thing they did on Fridays was order pizza.
Yeah.
Then he's like, dude, in one day I was downing like 5,000 calories.
Sure.
And I was messing up all the hard work I did during the week, and then it was leading into the weekend, which meaning Saturday's like, well, it's Saturday, I was going to eat and pounds on another 5,000. Sunday's like a day of rest, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be sedentary and then eat pasta or something all day.
Sure.
And it was all these things that they were finding out about themselves.
Yeah.
Where he didn't say, guys, the goal here, you guys are obese, right? Is to lose weight. Never said anything. He just said track what you're eating.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that habit created it made them see patterns and then created additional habits.
So that's sort of like how, when they say, if you want to save money, write down everything you spent, literally everything you spend money on, because you'll see every little bit and piece.
You'll get mad at yourself.
You'll get mad at yourself like, dang.
What am I spending money on?
Yeah.
It's like so much going out for no reason. It's like, then that's when you really start actually putting money in the bank at that point.
Or another, having a good keystone habit, the opposite is stopping a really bad habit. Mm-hmm. Right? And all of a sudden you stop that really bad habit. What typically happens? People are like, man, I didn't realize how much I'm saving a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the first thing you hear when someone stops smoking or drinking. Sure. The first thing they say is like, I can't believe how much money I was spending.
Yeah.
It's like literally one of the first things they say.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they become mindful of, oh my goodness, I'm spending, let's just say $10 a day on this habit. Mm-hmm. And it's not helping me.
Sure.
Right? I might think it is. Right? I might think it's like, oh, it's taking away my stress.
Yeah.
It's doing, you come up with all these things for yourself.
Have an excuse. Yeah.
Right. And it highlights it.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting.
And then you think about dang, how come I didn't think about this sooner, or how come I didn't realize it sooner, or whatever. You're like,
if I would have stopped 5 years ago,
you know what I would have had by now? Yeah. Then that trickles in.
Well, and so then speaking of atomic habit or keystone habit, once you stop that bad habit and you saw how much money you save, here it goes. Now you're going to see, well, what else am I doing that is messing up my finances and I don't even know it is?
Right. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you become, this, financier for yourself.
Yeah, no, and it can go multiple ways with finance and health. I stopped going to Wawa in the mornings to get a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is $1 and some change. But then you're standing in line, you see they have pretzels or a cupcake or whatever. Yeah. And now that $1 something turned into $5, and that was that day. And now I'm spending money that I shouldn't have, and I'm eating something that I shouldn't have. You know what I mean? So you cut that out, and it's helping both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
And then at the end of the month, or at the end of 3 months, you saved a lot of money. You saved some calories. So it helps both ways. Just one little habit.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Just being aware of it.
Just being aware of it. Dude, I kicked Wawa in the butt. I used to go every morning.
Yeah.
Literally, kind of like you're saying, or on my way to work, stop and get a Wawa coffee, or get a bagel, or get a tasty cake or something. And it's like, what in the world? I have coffee at home. Why am I buying coffee? All I gotta do is make myself a pot, put it in my mug, and keep it moving.
Yeah. And that would be warm all day too.
And it's warm all day, and so it's duh, I used to spend a lot, and then it would be in the morning, and then at lunchtime, I'll take a trip over to the Wawa and get another coffee. And next thing you know, I'm buying coffee and a pretzel or something. And it's like Goose is saying,
coffee cake.
It's the same thing. It's like, what in the world is going on here?
I mean, there is something to say about convenience, right?
Oh, for sure.
Hands down, yes, absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with Wawa.
There's
nothing wrong with the store.
Right. I love Wawa.
But so when
your habit ruined Wawa.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying in your mind?
So now when I go get a Wawa coffee, it's like...
Now it's a treat.
Yeah, it's a treat. It's like on the weekends, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm driving. I'm going to go pick up something. My wife will send me off to go get something, or I'll have the kids taking them to softball practice or something. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me dip in here and get a coffee and keep moving. That way, I'm at softball practice with a coffee and, and just keep myself going. And that's, like I said, it's a treat.
Now, yeah, it's a luxury, not a habit.
Not a habit. Yeah. Yep.
I love it. So what are some things that we might have missed, or any topics that we want to hit when it's having the greatest year? How's it been going? Are you feeling a little bit more motivated if you stopped? Where's everyone's mindset right now?
I'm just excited about the stuff we have going.
Yeah.
Potentially going forward. So
yeah.
I mean, I haven't lost focus. I've been doing my thing we're getting to the end of February, and I feel like I've accomplished some of my goals already, and I feel really good. And I'm just excited for what the rest of the year is going to have for me and my family and all of us. Actually, you never know. We could always end up getting or doing something major by the end of this year.
No, definitely.
So
for me it's the same thing where it's a big thing for Lauren and I. We're trying to save up for a house. Obviously the market is kind of crazy, but we have there's a set time frame, which is probably pushing closer towards the end of the year. So we're just tackling little things off little by little, but at the same time we're not trying to stress ourselves overbear ourselves with that. So trying to have little weekend trips here and there that we didn't do for the past 2 or 3 years, you know?
Right, yeah.
So kind of try to so for the first quarter, there's a little, I don't know, like you said, a little a goal, smaller goals, like you said earlier, in between the big goal, and then now we're all right, we just did this. Now we can.
And another key is, if you feel yourself getting stressed out with this goal, slow it down.
Yeah.
Figure out what's causing the stress and why. Because to reach your goal, you shouldn't be stressed out.
Yeah.
You should be just happening, and it should be coming to you, not stressing yourself out and messing other things up.
Or stressing out trying to fit that particular date or whatever it is.
Correct.
Forcing it.
Right. So, I mean, we might set a goal for the end of this year or for the summer of this year, and it may not happen till the end of the year or maybe the following year. But follow through with it. And always remember what it is at the end of the day or at the end of the goal. Make sure that you stay focused.
And at the same time, like you were saying, don't force it.
Yeah.
Like what I said right now, at the end of the year, I have a set goal towards the end of the year, but probably because of the market, it's not going to be feasible for our family.
Sure.
And I'm not going to force it either.
Right.
So then I'll push it all to the next year.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it could happen sooner, so you never know.
And it could happen next year.
So,
next few weeks or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
It has to be right. And to the point of frustration or stress, you're gonna have those challenging moments.
Yes.
I think the takeaway there is that if you're stressed the whole time, or there's a long extended segment of you being stressed out about accomplishing the thing, that's when it goes to being forced. That's when it goes, for me personally, I'm going against what's truly supposed to happen.
Right.
And I'm forcing it on my own instead of God's will.
You're kind of souring the experience of actually just doing what you want to do.
Yeah, and then I get it and it's I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh gosh, it was like the most stressful thing. I mean,
I got it now. I don't even want it.
And again, to reiterate, that doesn't mean that just because when you set a goal, that doesn't mean it's not going to be hard. That doesn't mean you're not going to work hard.
Right.
Yeah.
What we're saying is, if you're so overwhelmingly stressed about accomplishing a specific goal for an extended time, you really truly have to just recalibrate or just step back and re-look at the situation.
Right.
Is this what should be happening?
Yeah.
Maybe you should change a different avenue, the way you're approaching it or something.
Because there was times where I was stressed, very stressed about obtaining something, but catching myself, right? And so it was like, I'm leading into it being forced. And catching yourself, because it's, I think more naturally, it's like when you have that obsessed mindset of obtaining a specific goal, you and yourself can work yourself up into a stressful thought process.
Sure.
And here you are freaked out about no one in a situation didn't ask for or call for, you just did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it is doing what you can, working hard. And a lot of the home runs, I would say, that I hit, and you hear it in real life, I mean, like in the real sport of baseball, a lot of the guys who say they hit a home run, they say they didn't even feel it. Like they swung the bat and didn't feel the contact of the ball, and that they hit like a monster shot into deep center or something. It almost is like the same thing with I'm trying. I trained for this. I know I can do it, and I'm putting in the effort. If it's what's mine is going to be mine.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Where if you're competing up against somebody for, let's just say it's a position or something like that, or something in particular, a job, do the best that you can. But when it becomes a thing where you're obsessed in the wrong way,
sure,
you should be obsessed with obtaining it, but in the healthiest way possible. Like, this is gonna be fantastic when I get it because of X, Y, and Z, and how cool will it be? Blah blah blah. And you're thinking about that, not like, oh my gosh, what if I didn't say the right things? What if I didn't do the right, mail the right letter? And what happens if I don't get this? Then then there's no other opportunity that'll ever happen ever again if I don't get this.
Yeah.
You have become obsessive the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And so I do believe to go back, my recommendation to anyone who's given up or is thinking about giving up, go back to why you started. And then also, my biggest recommendation for this is join God's plan. That's all I'm going to say. Join his plan, because whatever you have and think how it's going to, let's all think about everything you've ever truly accomplished. Did the path go exactly how you actually thought it was going to go?
No.
Never. No. Literally never. It's never happened. Ever. In humankind.
No, it's not. I mean, I have a great example today. I sold a house today, and my wife and I thought it was going to be the easiest process. The easiest process. It was the most hiccups, the most craziest things happening, even to the last moment where our realtor was like, in 20 years, I've never seen so many hiccups, but you guys surpassed them, and you guys were dedicated and ready to take down anything, and it made it happen. So, I mean, it happened, but it was never... We thought it was going to be like, oh yeah, put it up for sale, boom, 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 had these people like it, sign off on it, and we're all done. Nope, never like that.
Yeah.
Never like that. But just sit tight and go for the ride and do what it is they're requesting of you, and make it happen.
Yeah, I would say another thing is overthinking, again, but we're going to that weird word obsession, but like overthinking in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
So... think the best outcome. And here's the thing. Know that it's not going to happen perfectly the way you in your mind. So this is what happens. I'm telling you right now, because I've done it a million times. I've made up in my mind how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And slowly I see it breaking down, the process not happening in that direction. All of a sudden I feel myself getting anxious and overthinking and like crumbling in thought process over it. Having the goal is one way. How you get there, that's what I'm talking about, where you need to have that relationship with God. That has to be a whole other thing. I can't, specifically teach that. That's a relationship between you and God. You have to figure that out. I promise you, because once you figure that out, you start letting that stuff go. Which direction it's going to go, and trying to be so controlling. Like, it has to happen this way. Right? And like, just think about like a lot of these people who know the past that probably are going to make them the most successful people. But that's like 1%, right? Like a crazy gifted athlete. And I'm not let's say they worked and they made themselves even better. Fantastic. You knew exactly for the most part what you're going to. There's a lot of people. We were just talking about some YouTube millionaire or whatever. This guy went to school for one thing, like literally went to like university for one thing in his undergrad. Had a good job, whatever. Found a couple of videos on YouTube on, how to flip a home. Flipped a home. Bought real estate. Then all of a sudden was like, what do you call that? Like doing exotic car rentals. And then went from that to buying commercial real estate. He became the most successful thing beyond his wildest dreams. Nothing he could have. He's like, I would have never. He's like, 5 years ago. I was just 9 to 5, just clocking in, whatever. And in 5 years, I just tried one new thing, blah blah blah, and I was open to new things and processes, and I became what I always wanted to be, just not the route I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? And so if you're open to it, it's what's your end goal? You'll get there. Just don't get hung up on how you got there. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you're going to appreciate the journey way better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
And one thing, if you're overthinking and you're mad at yourself that you did not accomplish your goal thus far, or you didn't maintain or stick to it, stop overthinking, stop beating yourself up, forgive yourself, and start over. Just start right now. Start today.
Yeah.
This instant. Just start. Because what's going to happen is another 2 months are going to roll around and like, dang, I wish I would have started when I beat myself up before.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and it's going to keep going. That's the thing. This whole, world, it's going to keep spinning. Whether you want to take action today or you want to take action 2 months from now. Right. There's going to be somebody who's going to achieve their goals in between that whole time you've been, procrastinating and being mad at yourself. All right, so there you have it. The greatest check-in. We like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is by Jim Ryun. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. Second one by Mark Caine. The first step towards success is taken when you refuse to be captive of the environment in which you first find yourself. The greatest check-in this episode, the crew covers topics that range from 2022 goal status and the greatest update, revisiting our why, making adjustments, future predictions, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Jim Ryun and Mark Caine. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.